Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Welcome to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello, everybody. How is it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far, or I hope maybe you're listening to this in the morning, and I hope this sets you up for a wonderful day. It is a brand new week, and I am back to share more feel-good, positive stories with you. I'm super excited for today's episode. I feel like I probably say that every single episode, but seriously, this is the best part of my day, just being able to sit down and talk about great things that are happening in our world and getting to share them with you guys. It's just super awesome for me. Seriously, the best part of my day. So today I have lots of really awesome lots of awesome stories. Apparently today might be a rough one for talking out loud, but I have some really cool things that, touch a little bit about COVID, touch a little about some equality things, of course, some stuff about nature and animals and all that good stuff. So I have a little bit of something for everybody today. But yeah, every story is feel good, positive. So let's just jump right into it and get started. So the first story I want to talk about is about COVID-19. It's about the lockdown a little bit. But since Father's Day just passed, I thought I would share this story about that COVID-19 has actually brought fathers closer to their kids, which I thought was a kind of a cool study survey that they did. So they're saying that during COVID-19 lockdown, it's brought fathers closer to their kids and improved their relationships by 40%, which is just insane. I feel like that's quite a lot, but I guess we are spending more time at home, especially if you're usually, a workaholic, you're always busy and out and stuff. It's definitely, a benefit of the lockdown is being able to spend time with your family and, your family, I was going to say family and friends, but with your family living in your house. So this new study kind of reveals the silver lining amid, the COVID-19 lockdown. It's bringing people closer. And in this particular study, it's bringing fathers closer to their kids during this pandemic. And also this study shows that they want to create a new normal going forward. So all those busy dads out there that are, doing lots of work all the time, and this has kind of just woken them up to say, hey, we got to spend more time together as a family. So this was released just last week as part of Canadian Men's Health Week, and it was conducted on behalf of the nonprofit Canadian Men's Health Foundation, the CMHF. And this survey asked over 1,000 Canadian fathers about the impact of the COVID-19 lockdown on their roles as fathers. So the Canadian Health Minister, Adrian Dick, says, even though families have faced stressors and challenges with COVID-19, we recognize that fathers have been granted a golden opportunity to take time to slow down and connect with their children. Many parents work full-time and commute, and when that is taken away, they have more opportunities for togetherness, like a game of catch or going for a hike. So men's health is impacted by their living situations, and getting a little more physical activity with their kids is a little thing that makes a huge difference. We can learn from this pandemic in more ways than we think. I agree with that 100%. So during lockdown, 40% of the respondents felt COVID-19 has had a positive impact on their role as a father. 52% are more aware of their importance as a father, and 60% felt closer to their children. So half of those surveys have already decided to be more engaged as a father in the future as well. So according to the study, almost 2/3 of the fathers have been providing companionship to their children more often during the lockdown, and almost half plan to continue to do so as restrictions are beginning to lift. 56% have been providing guidance to their children more often, and 46% plan to continue doing that as well. So this is just a little message from Dal Watson of Burnaby, BC. Says, I've been off work since March and it's been stressful, but the upside is I've been able to spend a lot of time with my daughters. I'm a professional chef and I've been spending time in the kitchen at home teaching my kids how to cook. We're also sitting down as a family and eating together, which was something that couldn't happen very often when I was working. I'm grateful for the extra time I have with my family. Pandemic is helpful in more ways than we think. So that's just one story. Now, Nick Black, the managing partner at Intentions Consulting, said fathers' increased engagement can take in many different forms. And one tangible way that the study sees dads engaging is that 64% are eating more meals with their children. This is a huge thing. You know, sitting down and actually having that meal with your family goes a very long way. It's a time to catch up, sit down, have some food, and catch up on everybody's lives or their day, or just in general, spend some quality time. So they're saying that sharing meals can provide an important opportunity for family connection. It's considerable evidence that eating meals together can have a positive impact on the kids' mental health, the nutritional choices, school performance, and they can even reduce the incidence of drug and alcohol use if that's a problem as well. So sitting down and having a family meal goes a very long way. So they did a little follow-up on with this online survey, and they said that the Men's Initiative, the TMI, at the UBC conducted virtual focus groups with 45 fathers that are across Canada, and many fathers described a hectic family dynamic prior to COVID, with busy lives, focused on long work days, commuting, eating on the run, catering kind of to children's schedules, all that stuff, sports, extracurricular activities, social activities, and family members experienced lives that were lived in parallel with each other, right? So as the pandemic continued and evolved, fathers kind of expressed their concern that they will experience a tension between shifting back to the old normal, and they actually want to desire to create this new normal going forward. I think this is kind of true for everything, moving forward and going back to the old normal, I guess, is kind of scary. I feel like we've been in the new normal for quite some time now, that it really is starting to feel normal in a sense. I know it's not normal at all, but it's kind of scary to start converting back to your old normal if you did have one, right? Especially as a family, if you aren't able to have that time that you had during the COVID-19 lockdowns, you're going to be missing that a little bit more. But this survey is saying that more and more fathers are wanting to spend, that quality time with their kids forward, and hoping to make adjustments in their work lives, in their commuting schedules, all that kind of stuff, to be able to do that in the future. So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought it was a super positive outlook on the COVID-19 lockdowns, because we always need a positive outlook on something as crazy as that, in my opinion. Now, let's switch over to the environment a little bit. This is kind of a cool scientific thing about animals, the environment, all the above. So, soap bubbles delivered by a tiny drone can pollinate crops if bees aren't available. This is a new study. Sounds weird, right? So, I guess the bees had a very good year. This year, it was the second smallest winter hive loss in 14 years. That was according to an annual survey that was just released in March. But some agricultural experts continue to look for alternative pollination techniques, because we can't always have a very good bee year, right? So, bees and other pollinators like butterflies are really essential to farmers who grow flowering crops like fruit orchids, almonds, and all that kind of stuff. So bee populations suffering over the last decade, that's due to a variety of different factors. But one innovative researcher that's from Japan kind of found this perfect but weird, interesting solution. And this idea came to him while he was in the park blowing soap bubbles with his son. Okay, so his name is Alejandro, and he is an associate professor at the Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, and he successfully used soapy bubbles to pollinate a pear orchid by delivering pollen grains to targeted flowers in the most interesting, delicate way, utilizing a drone. drones are also incredible, I have to say. So this technique would be much cheaper and more effective than other types of manual pollination, especially when it's used in concert kind of with robotic or drone delivery methods. Can be very affordable and easy. So this was a study that was published. It was published in the journal iScience. And it presents this kind of low-tech complement to robotic pollination technology that's designed to supplement the work of vanishing bees. So he says, it sounds somewhat like fantasy, but the functional soap bubble allows effective pollination and assures that the quality of fruits is the same as the conventional hand pollination. Kind of a cool thing, right? Technology these days. It's crazy. So him and his colleagues had previously published a study in the journal Chem, and it kind of used a tiny toy drone to pollinate blossoming flowers. But even though the drone was only about 2 centimeters long, the researchers really struggled to prevent it from destroying the flowers as it bumped into them a lot. So that was kind of the problem with that. So while searching for a more flower-friendly artificial pollination technique, he basically spent a day at the park blowing bubbles with his son. And one of the bubbles collided against his son's face. And, you know, it's just a bubble on his face. But it kind of gave him inspiration, which is crazy. So after confirming through optical microscopy, the soap bubbles could, and in fact, carry pollen grains. And so him and his co-author on the study tested the effects of 5 commercially available surfactants on pollen activity and bubble formation. The neutralized surfactant, it's called A2OAB, for all of you science people out there that might know what that is. So it won over its competitors, facilitating better pollen germination and growth of the tube that develops from each pollen grain after it is deposited on a flower. So based on laboratory analysis of the most effective soap concentrations, these researchers tested the performance of pear pollen grains in a 0.4% A2OAB soap bubble solution with an optimized pH, and then they added calcium and other ions to support this germination. So about 3 hours later, the soap bubbles that were remaining steady, while other methods such as, pollination through powder or solution became less effective. So this was actually more effective, these bubbles. And then they loaded the solution into a bubble gun and released pollen-loaded bubbles into this pear orchard, finding that this technique actually distributed the pollen grains about 2,000 per bubble, which is crazy, to the flowers they targeted, producing fruit that demonstrated the pollination success. Crazy, am I right? So now they loaded this GPS-controlled drone, which they used to direct the soap bubbles at fake lilies, and it was it was from a height of about 2 meters, and they're hitting their targets at a 90% success rate when the machine moved at a velocity of 2 meters per second. So all this approach to pollination appears quite promising. These techniques are still needed to improve its precision of the whole thing. So there is some more things that have to be done and tested to really figure this out. But soap bubbles, and of course the weather is key with this as well. Raindrops can wash away pollen-bearing bubbles from flowers, while strong winds might blow them away as well. So there are definitely some factors that play into this. But I thought that was a pretty cool study, and I'm super interested to see kind of what happens from here on out, to see what's next. Maybe this really does work. All right, it's time for a little bit of a break, but don't go anywhere. When we get back, I have some more feel-good, positive stories to share with you today, and I'm super excited about it, so stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Jo. I'm sharing lots of feel-good, positive stories with you today, and let's just jump right back into it. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about, history has been made. Okay, just last week, and all of this is for the environment. This is super, super, super exciting. So, a Hawaii group has set a record and for the largest haul of plastic removed from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Pretty cool, right? So this is a record. So Ocean Voyages Institute, they made history. So returning to the port of Honolulu just this past Tuesday, they removed 103 tons of fishing nets and consumer plastics from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Pretty awesome, right? So it's more than doubled its own record results from a 25-day stint last year during this 48-day expedition. Mary Crowley is the group's founder and executive director, says that they are headed back to sea in just 2 days to collect more debris as well. She says, "I am so proud of our hard-working crew. We exceeded our goal of capturing more than 100 tons of toxic consumer plastics and ghost nets, and in these challenging times, we are continuing to help restore the health of our ocean, which influences our own health and the health of the planet." Definitely, right? So they are known as the Ghost Net Buster. They're known for developing effective methods to remove significant amounts of plastic out of the ocean. This was including about 48 tons of plastic during 2 ocean cleanup voyages in 2019. This was one that actually scooped up nets that had trapped garbage around the Hawaiian Islands as well. I'm sure you've probably heard of this group. They've done a lot of amazing things. So they say even though beach cleanups are the most efficient way to collect trash, ocean cleanup, intercepting it before it comes to the shore is also very, very important. Nothing can replace the effort in the ocean, right? So actually being out there on your ship, collecting that garbage actually goes a very long way, not just from the beach. So aboard their cargo ship, the team had been using GPS satellite trackers since about 2018, and it was designed with the help of the engineer Andy Sabrandi of Pacific Gear Incorporated. And basically in their theory, they prove successful that one tracker can lead to many nets. So the ocean frequency sorts the floating debris so that a tagged fishing net can lead to the other nets and a density of debris within a 15-mile radius. Pretty cool, right? So they say we are utilizing proven neutral equipment to effectively clean up the oceans while innovating with new technologies. Ocean Voyages Institute has been a leader in researching and accomplishing ocean cleanup for over a decade, granted with less fanfare and attention than others, but with passion and commitment and making meaningful impacts. So this institute unloaded the record-breaking haul of the ocean plastic debris. It was just this past week, 103 tons. It was alongside Pier 29, and this was all thanks to the support of Honolulu-based Matson, which is in preparation for upcycling and proper disposal of it as well. So Matt Cox, the chairman and CEO, says, in keeping with our commitment to environmental stewardship, Matson has been searching for a way to get involved in cleaning up the Pacific. We've been impressed with the groundbreaking efforts of Ocean Voyages Institute and the progress they've made with such a small organization, and we hope our efforts will help them continue this important work. So the sailing cargo vessel, they left Hawaii port of Hilo on May 4th, and it was about a 3-week self-imposed quarantine period to ensure the health crew of these members in the face, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. But the GPS satellite tracking beacons are being placed on fishing nets by volunteer yachts and ships. And then the Institute is launching a second voyage that will depart in 2 days just to clean up the area, and it's kind of getting a little bit longer, between about 25 to 30 days. It'll be determined by donations and fundraising of how long they're actually going to be out there. So if you do want to go donate to this and be a part of it, they have a GoFundMe page, a PayPal. You can donate by check. There's so many different other methods. If you just go to their website, Ocean Voyages Institute. You'll see it right there of how you can be a part of that and how you can help make a difference with cleaning up our beautiful oceans. So they say our goal is to have another 3 to 4 boats working next year, all bringing in large cargoes of debris. And they say that we have vessels wanting to help clean up. So right now we can begin to make a big change because our solutions are scalable. So over the long term, they are aiming to expand the other parts of the world desperately needing cleanup as well, so that abandoned fishing nets will never again entangle or harm a whale, dolphin, turtle, or reef. So if you want to go be a part of that and move that forward and clean up the ocean as well, head on over to their website. I highly suggest it. It's a super cool organization that they've got going on and some really great things coming forward. So definitely check out their website to be a part of that. Now, I want to talk about the dad gain. I don't know if you heard about the dad gain, but so basically Sean Williams, his name is Sean Williams, this man, and he started the dad gain. Okay, so now let me rewind a little bit and give you a little bit of a background story of this whole thing. So about 4 years ago, a woman approached Sean Williams. He's a Black father, and he was just shopping at a grocery store with his kids, and she commended him for sticking around and doing right by his children. So, yes, I know, right? A little bit crazy. So this was in the moment in the grocery store. It was in a mostly white Long Island neighborhood, and this was not a unique encounter that happened in this neighborhood. He said that many of his friends have experienced similar situations, and this encounter led him to launch the organization of Solidarity for Black Dads with a mission to change the way people view Black fatherhood. Pretty cool, right? So that's when he created kind of the dad gain with this nonprofit organization of Solidarity for Black Dads. So the African American fathers who are living with their children are more active than any other group in terms of changing diapers and bathing and dressing their kids. Sean wants these positive qualities of Black fatherhood to become more well known and more celebrated in their culture. So the dad gain has evolved into a community of socially conscious allies whose motto they say is we are dad goals. That's pretty much sums up their gain. That's how they want to say it. It's the new standard of what Black fatherhood looks like worldwide. So thanks to the dad gain, it was not just an ordinary Father's Day weekend that had just passed in the Nationals capital. So hundreds have gathered with Sean and the dad gain and this group at the National Museum of African American History and Culture to celebrate their families and bust those racial stereotypes that we are fighting so hard to break right now. So they all came together to just show their power as a group that they can make this change. And so Sheila Roberts of Tampa, Florida, she was visiting her father there. And when she heard about the event at the museum, she said she couldn't think of a better way to celebrate this big day. She says, Black fathers don't get the credit that they deserve. I'm here to dispel the myth and stereotype. So this actually group stood in solidarity with those protesting the death of George Floyd in the recent weeks. Edward Smith, the COO of the dad gain, said that the Floyd's daughter, although she lost her father to racial injustice, she also gained 1 million more dads who care about her. So I just thought it was a pretty cool thing that they did. They came together, the dad gain. If you search up the hashtag dad goals or the dad gain on Instagram or other social media platforms, you'll be able to see lots of different photos and videos on social media. If you yourself want to be a part of that, they highly suggest using the hashtag dad goals and the dad gain. And you can go check that out and be a part of it and see what they've done or add your own photos or videos as well to kind of just add to the feed and add to that hashtag, because it definitely brings a lot of awareness when more and more people become a part of that. You can also support their mission on their website. So you can just search up the dad gain and you can support. There's different ways that you can donate, you can do different things to just help promote and help them out with this group. So check out their website as well if you want to be a part of that. I feel like today's episode, I've just been telling you to go to websites and help and donate as much as you can, but it's true. If you ever want to help out with any of these, things that I'm talking about, I highly, highly suggest going over to those websites and being a part of it, because that's what really makes a difference, is more people getting involved. So it makes me so happy to share these stories so I can spread more awareness for these organizations and these groups that are trying to go above and beyond to spread kindness and equality and just good, positive things across our world. So go be a part of that. I would love to see it. All right, it is time for another break, but when we get back, you already know it. I have more feel-good, positive stories to share with you, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast. All right, we are on the last stretch of today's episode, and I'm just going to try to fill as many feel-good stories as I can into this. So, the next one I want to share with you is about a teen who invented a wristband that could really curb infection of COVID-19, and this wristband warns the users against touching their face, which I don't know about you, but this has been my biggest thing. I'm trying to stay as safe as possible, but you just kind of forget to not touch your face when you're not used to it, right? And so for my trick, I've just been like trying to tuck my hands like under my arms so I'm not like feeling like I need to touch my face, because it's just out of habit, right? We move our hair out of our face, or we just itch or touch our face. Like, it's just so common. So this teen invented this wristband that basically gives you a warning against touching your face. It's pretty cool. So he's 15 years old. His name is Max Mila, and he designed and developed this wearable wristband, and it alerts the users when they are about to touch their face. Crazy, am I right? So he first came up with this brilliant idea actually 2 years ago as a means of reducing the spread of the cold and the flu. But after both of his parents contracted COVID-19 about 4 months ago, he threw all of his efforts into developing a working prototype as soon as possible. So he says, watching this pandemic unfold on the news, it was clear the devastating effect it was having on people's lives across the world. However, it wasn't until I saw the severity of the virus firsthand when my parents both contracted COVID-19 did I truly appreciate just what we were dealing with. So he's quite tech savvy, and he's since produced the Vibe Pro, and it just warns the users whenever they are about to subconsciously touch their face, right? It's totally out of habit. We don't mean to do it, but if you're not constantly thinking about not touching your face, it might happen. It's definitely just common, right? So this has been recognized as one of the key ways, of course, that coronavirus can be transmitted, because if you touch your hands on something and then you touch your face, you might get sick, right? So this could be a life-saving situation for lots of people. So it's actually worn on both wrists, and this device is expected to retail for about $112 US, with the patent currently pending right now. But it uses position sending technology algorithms to distinguish between predicted face touching and other hand motions as well. And then a vibration on the device alerts you from your hand gestures that that you might be close to your face. So he says, we came up with this concept a few years ago when my family was repeatedly catching the cold and flu viruses from traveling in and out of London, and I could see how easy it was to pick up germs, especially from using public transport. So he says it was only when the World Health Organization began urging people to avoid touching their eyes, nose, and face to stop the spread of the virus from contaminated surface, did I realize that it could make a real difference in slowing the transmission of coronavirus. So he launched this crowdfunding campaign with about $75,000. It was actually just earlier this week to further his project and turn the prototype into a public reality. Says the main priority of this project is not to make money, but to get it onto wrists of those that it can help keep safe. Any profits made from early sales via the crowdfunding site will be reinvested into providing free devices to organizations that help people, such as the NHS staff and nursing homes. He says, I believe that this device can make a real difference in the fight against coronavirus, and I'm determined to do all that I can bring to the market. I really hope that the general public can see the potential and are inspired to get behind the campaign to fund the next stage of development. So it's actually available in 2 different colors. It's rechargeable, it's splash resistant, and it's made from a waterproof silicone. So it can also be turned off when you're eating and drinking or whenever you don't need it. So yeah, you can actually go to Vibe Pro website, VYB PRO website. There is the crowdfunding page. You can just see how you can be a part of that as well. Help out whenever you can or whenever you want. And then yeah, he's going to be distributing them and giving them away. So definitely go check out that website if you want to be a part of it or get one yourself, because I thought that's such a cool thing. Honestly, I could use one. It's so helpful. We always subconsciously are touching our faces when we just don't realize it, right? So now the next story, though, I want to share with you is a pretty cool new discovery. This gardener has discovered how to grow vegetables in the winter, and now he's starting to help others do it as well. So it's an Australian farmer, and he kind of experienced this amazing moment on how to grow vegetables throughout the winter, and now he's starting to teach this technique to other European gardening communities as well. So he accidentally discovered his winter farming technique after a batch of Asian lettuce was left undamaged by an early frost in the vegetable fields behind his house in Lower Austria. Oh, sorry, I called him an Australian farmer. He's an Austrian farmer. That's my bad. The temperature had actually dropped to minus 11 degrees Celsius, which is about 12 degrees Fahrenheit. And although the crop is generally frost resistant to temperatures of minus 3 or so, the lettuce and other vegetables survive the cold. So this is when he heard of the Research Institute of Horticulture in Austria, and he's kind of puzzled by the agriculture phenomenon. So upon doing some digging on why his vegetables may have survived this cold snap, he found that the existing scientific literature on the frosting hardness of the Central European vegetables was just wrong. So he started to make it right. This is what he did. So the experimental farm where he conducts his research, he now grows lettuce, spinach, scallions, red radishes, kale, turnips, carrots, celery, herbs, a bunch of different things throughout the winter. These vegetables are all part of the crop of more than 70 species, which he's learned to cultivate in the winter. So his technique involves combining the use of unheated plastic tunnels under the produce and heating the ground with manure. And he also had been experimenting with planting his crops at varying times of the year. And his reasoning being that if he plants seeds too late, their roots won't be strong enough to last the winter. So if they're planted too early in the year, the plants will fruit too quickly. So it's kind of about timing as well. So this gardening guide was published by Reasons to Be Cheerful. And you can grow iceberg lettuce throughout winter temperatures of between 0 and 8 degrees Celsius if you sow your seeds at the beginning of August and plant at the end of the month and harvest the crop between November and January. So he's quite passionate in using his research to impact society at a large. So he now holds winter gardening classes in the park in Vienna, and attendees can manage their own vegetable beds. He also works with commercial and small-time farmers with the hopes of helping them to exploit the year-long potential of their fields. So not only do his teaching help farmers exponentially improve their crop fields, it also helps reduce the greenhouse gas emissions that are generated by the demand for imported vegetables flown in from tropical climates, which is roughly about 15 times the cost of growing domestically. So he says, in a cold winter night, a heated greenhouse of 1.5 acre causes as much CO2 equivalent as a detached house in a whole year. mankind can no longer afford this. So this is kind of his way of trying to teach the society of a new way we can help the environment and be growing these crops during the winter. And now my last story for today's episode is actually about Sean Penn and what he's doing to help COVID-19. So his nonprofit relieves the burden of firefighters by administering COVID testing in 10 U.S. cities for no price at all. So about 10 years ago, he was the one who mobilized a huge team of volunteers to rebuild Haiti after the earthquake claimed 250,000 lives. So his nonprofit, it's called CORE. It's still here today, has 150 people working with local communities. And now that, his own country needed help, he wanted to step in and do the valuable work of testing for COVID-19 free of charge in communities across the country. So they've already completed 530,000 tests, and they freed up firefighters to get back to their regular duties, which is pretty amazing. So after he learned that the testing stations were being manned by firefighters in Los Angeles, he says that CORE, his nonprofit organization, was able to leverage existing infrastructure and send in trained volunteers to particularly take over the city's testing program, which is just absolutely amazing. So CORE is also providing free testing in the Californian cities of Bakersfield, Oakland, and Napa, and now they expanded to Atlanta, Georgia, New York City, New Orleans, Detroit, Chicago, and the nation of Nevada. So a longtime liberal activist, he told that he's not only pro-test, he is pro-protest, and he has set up mobile coronavirus testing stations for protesters in Washington, D.C. as well. He says, I've got a lot of superheroes working with me. Which is just, I just thought that was so cool. So, CORE, the nonprofit organization, you could also go check out their website and see ways that you can get involved. You can also volunteer to do some of the testing as well. So if you want to go be involved with that, I highly suggest going to check out those websites and getting involved in any possible way you can. Like I said, today's episode, I just feel like I'm telling you to go get involved in all these different awesome organizations, but I would just love to be your gateway to doing something great and going to check out those websites. If you learned that from me, that makes me super, super happy if you learned about organization that you want to be a part of. So definitely go check out all of those websites that I named today. I will post those up on our social media pages for you guys so that you can go check those out easier on our social media pages. We have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram now. So definitely go check those out. I will definitely be posting up more information for you. But that is all I have for today's episode. Thank you so, so much for listening to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. You already know this is my favorite part of my day. I love being here, and I so appreciate you being here. So please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. It does wonders for me, and I appreciate it so much. So go over and check that out, and I look forward to sharing more feel-good, positive stories with you next time. Stay safe, stay positive, and spread kindness every single chance that you get. Remember, kindness will never go out of style. So spread kindness every corner you turn. All right, thank you so much for being here. Till next time, thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast.